Why listening to English is so important. Have you ever wondered why listening to English is often considered one of the most important parts of learning a language? Let me take you on a little journey today, a story about why listening is not just an activity, but a doorway to understanding and mastering English. Let's imagine this. You're standing in the middle of a busy street in London. People are walking past you, talking on their phones, chatting with their friends, or perhaps asking for directions. You hear bits and pieces of conversations. Someone says, "Excuse me, can you tell me where the station is?" Another person might be talking about their weekend. "It was amazing. The weather was just perfect." At first, it feels overwhelming. So many voices, so many words, and they're all coming at you so fast. But here's the thing. This is real-life English. This is how the language lives and breathes. And the only way to truly connect with it is by listening. The magic of listening. Listening is where it all begins. Think about how babies learn their first language. Do they start by reading books? No, of course not. They start by listening. For months, they hear their parents talking, singing, and sometimes just making funny sounds. Slowly but surely, their brains absorb the patterns, the rhythm, and the meaning of the words. The same is true for you when you're learning English. Listening helps you pick up not just the words, but the music of the language. Every language has its rhythm, its flow. English, for example, has a kind of bounce to it. When you listen to English, you begin to feel that bounce, that natural flow. And once you've got it, speaking becomes much easier. Understanding pronunciation. Now, let me tell you about my friend Sarah. Sarah was studying English for years. She had an excellent vocabulary. She could write essays and answer grammar quizzes like a pro. But when she finally visited the United States, she ran into a big problem. She couldn't understand what people were saying. Words that looked easy on paper sounded completely different in real life. For example, she knew the word comfortable, but when someone said it quickly, like comfortable, she couldn't recognize it. That's because spoken English is often different from written English. Words are shortened, sounds are blended, and the way people speak depends on their accent. Listening is the key to solving this problem. By listening regularly, you'll start to recognize these patterns. You'll understand that going to often becomes gonna, or that wanted becomes wanna. It's like unlocking a secret code, building confidence in speaking. Let's talk about confidence. Many of my students tell me they feel nervous about speaking English. What if I make a mistake? They ask. But here's a little secret. The more you listen, the more confident you'll feel.
Why?
Because listening gives you examples of how English is spoken naturally. When you listen to conversations, podcasts, or even songs, you're hearing how native speakers express themselves. You start to notice phrases they use, like, "That sounds great," or "I see what you mean." And when you hear these phrases often enough, they become part of your own vocabulary. The next time you're in a conversation, the words will come to you naturally because you've heard them before. Expanding your vocabulary. Listening also helps you learn new words, and not just any words, but words that people actually use. Let me give you an example. When you read a textbook, you might learn the word automobile. But when you listen to real conversations, you'll hear people say car. Textbooks are great, but they can't always teach you how people speak in everyday life. Listening to English, whether through movies, TV shows, or podcasts, exposes you to the kind of language that will help you in real situations. Improving your grammar without even trying. Here's another amazing thing about listening. It improves your grammar without you even realizing it. When you hear sentences like, "I've been waiting for you," or "She doesn't like coffee," your brain starts to notice the structure of these sentences. Over time, you'll start to use these structures in your own speaking and writing, almost automatically. It's like how a child learns to say, "I am" instead of "I is." They don't memorize grammar rules. They just hear it done correctly over and over again. The same will happen for you if you listen regularly. How to make listening a habit. Now that we've talked about why listening is so important, let's talk about how you can make it a daily habit. The good news is, listening to English doesn't have to feel like studying. In fact, it can be a lot of fun. Start with something you enjoy. Do you like movies? Watch them in English, with subtitles if you need them. Are you a fan of music? Listen to English songs and try to understand the lyrics. Do you enjoy stories? There are so many English audiobooks and podcasts out there, perfect for learners. One of my favorite suggestions is to watch cartoons in English.
Why?
Because they're made for kids, so the language is simple, the pronunciation is clear, and they're often very entertaining. Shows like Peppa Pig or Dora the Explorer can be surprisingly helpful for beginners. Practice active listening. Before we wrap up, let me share one final tip. Practice active listening. What does that mean? It means listening with a purpose. Instead of just letting the words wash over you, try to focus on what you're hearing. For example, if you're listening to a conversation, pay attention to how questions are asked. Notice the tone of voice when someone says, "Really?" or "Are you sure?" Try to repeat these phrases out loud. This will help you not only understand English better, but also speak it more naturally. A final thought. So, why is listening to English so important? Because it's the foundation of everything. It helps you understand pronunciation, build confidence, expand your vocabulary, improve your grammar, and so much more. But remember, it's not just about listening passively. Be curious, be active, and most importantly, have fun with it. Every time you listen, you're one step closer to mastering English. So, grab your headphones, pick something you love, and start listening today. Who knows? One day, you might find yourself standing in that busy London street, not just understanding what people are saying, but confidently joining the conversation.
Thank you for watching. Remember to keep learning and practicing every day. Don't forget to subscribe, so you won't miss out on more helpful videos that make learning English easier and more enjoyable every day. See you in the next lesson.